Okay, so welcome everybody. We just hit record and I am adjusting my height. So if this is a bad view of me or a worse view of me, I apologize. But we're doing a little pre-gaming there and we were getting myself centered. So hopefully now you appreciate that I have got my background properly centered on my head. If it looks like I've got stuff coming out of my ears, that is on purpose. Let me adjust my mic a little bit. Hopefully that is not going to be a problem. Welcome back. It is after the holidays. And we are back to building better habits. So, diving right in, two things I'm thinking about because this is in the New Year's resolution season, as it were. One of them I thought about and it actually goes back to something that I think you mentioned was in some previous stuff. You're realizing how much you enjoy doing like UI work, that there's these things that I think one of the things like a fun habit is as we get into this new year is putting a habit in that's something fun. And it's some things that I've done that I've learned over the last couple of years that I think would be pretty cool. And maybe we start with that one. Another one I thought about that sort of came to me that would be an interesting one. We'll see how this goes because it's like all of them, is an anti-habit. As I was thinking about like doing it is figuring out a way to break a habit because, New Year's resolutions are not always about adding. Sometimes it's addition by subtraction. Sometimes it is being better by not doing the things that are problematic. So I was thinking that might be a good one. I
Like
had
stop
one
eating
other.
Christmas cookies.
What?
Like stop eating Christmas cookies.
Well, very literally, that could be one of them. It's like for me, it's like right now, it's like it's too much snacky stuff, and I'm trying to like I don't know if I'm going to try to, but right now I have to because of just some of the things I'm doing. But it's like there's things like that that are habits we have that sometimes we don't realize them. Like a lot of people, they don't realize how much time they have on. They look at their phone until they get to the end of their week, and it says you had 15 hours of screen time. Stuff like that, or 20, or whatever it is.
Kind of like that Rocket Money app that looks for all the that could even be
Oh, the recurring charges and stuff like yeah,
yeah, I like
yeah.
that.
Um, One other that we may just put on our thing that I thought about was it's sort of in the anti-habits, but I was thinking about building a habit of focus. Particularly, I got into it because I was thinking about spending the last couple of days. I've had several conversations where I've been in conversations with developers and they've had keyboards in front of them and realized that I am not the only one by any stretch that hits rabbit trails all the time. And I think it's one of those things that we as better developers, I think it's way too often that we get ourselves sidetracked by stuff and then we get lost. And that's why sometimes, like stand-ups, that's why stand-ups can be as difficult as they are, is because developers want to spend an hour working on a problem as opposed to just like get in, get out, go get your stuff done. And so there's that drift. So those are three ideas I had.
So let's see, fun habits, anti-patterns or anti-habits, and building a habit of
Better
focus.
focus.
Better
Yep.
focus. Let's do that last one another time because I think if we brainstorm a little bit, we can actually come up with a good pairing to go with that one. So that week will be
Yeah.
kind of a themed habit of building better focus, and maybe we can do something else for meetings or productivity that week.
Cool. I have to write,
Putting that in
find the
Slack.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna throw that in the Slack. I just have to write. I have too many Slacks up. Okay, so let's see what we'll start with. I'll just put all three of these and we'll know that we did the one. Anti-habits. Do you want to start with fun or you want to start with anti-habits?
Let's start with anti-habits since this will be the first one officially new habit episode after the new year. And that'd be a good one because we kind of introduced, set goals and that in the New Year's Day episode. This would be a good one to kind of follow up with that.
All right, then we'll go with our three. Wow, there's something checked up with my camera. Oh, well, hello and welcome back. We are back. It is now 2025, and we are actually in 2025 with you, as opposed to the last episode. If you were listening, New Year's Eve, we were pre New Year's Eve. We're still here, or we've just got really good images of ourselves. We survived the year, as far as all of us know, and we are back to our habits. Before we get too far into that, I'm going to introduce myself because it's a new year. Same old me, though. I just have adjusted. Well, for those video watchers, I did adjust a little bit my camera and stuff like that. My name is Rob Broadhead. I happen to be one of the founders of Developing or Building Better Developers and also a founder of RB Consulting, where we're here to help you use technology better through simplification, automation, and integration. We take the vast, huge internet of technology and help you find the best things out there for your business, for your specific needs, for your custom. It's your business, your customers, your unique thing that you bring to the world and your value proposition. We find the best way to take technology and help you leverage that to deliver that to your customers. We're in the habits, and I'm going to talk about some new ones here in this next couple episodes that are things that I have built in the beginning of the year. This is a great time at the beginning of the year to really, if you maybe have gotten a little rusty on your habits over the holidays, to get back into them. One of the things that I've done throughout, I did skip a couple of days of the Pomodoros, but got right back into them. And it really has, like I said, doing like not aiming for a full day of Pomodoros, but just aiming for a couple of them has just continued to be very effective for me. Also, the automation piece, I think just it's one of those we started with 7 days and then automate something. I think that is really one that is very helpful to do on a weekly basis, is just make it part of your schedule each week, is to go find something that you do too much of that you can automate, that you can correct, or maybe that you could just wipe out of your life. Maybe it's something that you don't need to do where you're being busy instead of productive. And I found that to be very helpful to me. So those are a couple of habits that have been useful. I think another one is we talked a little bit. Michael's talked more about the uh, being tied personally to your stuff, to your code, to what you create. I've been through a whole bunch of changes in the last few weeks and some releases and things like that, and it's really good. I don't know if it's something I go through enough that it's not something I've been tied to as much, but it is very I guess energizing almost to be able to sit there and be able to sit there and say like, work with somebody and say, yeah, we need to make this better, as opposed to feeling like it's like you're taking it personally or something like that. To be like, yeah, we're on the same team. We're finding ways to make it better. Sort of like when you find your bug, it's a lot easier than when if somebody else points out the bug. It's those kinds of things. But being able now to say, hey, this person's a teammate and working with me has been it's really helping build those habits of finding more ways, more sets of eyes so that I can be a better developer, not just by myself, but so like we can be a better developer with our team, and we deliver better things for our customer. Good thing, bad thing. Interesting one, New Year's Eve. We had plans, we had a party, we had all this stuff we're going to go to. We went to the hotel, they were supposed to have this thing. The pregame to it, we found out it was not going to be a thing. It was going to be basically a DJ, and that was it. DJ and some interpretive dance. They weren't going to have drinks. They weren't going to have food. We're going to have to figure all that stuff out. So we pivoted, and we pivoted to another place. We were able to Uber, and it wasn't too expensive. So we're going to Uber there. So the bad thing was our initial plans were ridiculously blown up. The good thing is that we found another place at starting at 7 o'clock on New Year's Eve. We found another party in Nashville, which is hard to find spots anyways because it's packed. We found another place, found a party, got there a little early, so we managed to miss all the crowds, and it turned out to be a excellent New Year's Eve and a great way to step into the new year. Also stepping into the new year across the internet for me is Michael, and I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Building Better Developers, Developreneur. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help companies build software through test-driven development approaches, automation, integration testing, and functional testing. Looking back, now that we're kind of into 2025, kind of looking back at the habits we started last season or at towards the end of the year for this season, and over the holidays, I really implemented and followed a lot of our habits that we talked about, like the Pomodoro techniques, the list techniques, automation. Really kept me focused and able to get work done even through the holidays. I was able to still take some downtime, but we really got a lot of work accomplished, even with taking time off and spending time with family. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, it's a new year. Bills are paid. Bad thing, tax season is coming up around the corner, and I'm struggling to figure out what the heck I need to file for business taxes, end of the year filings, and all that fun stuff for to make sure I'm compliant with the government so they don't come knocking on my door.
Well, I sort of teased at it, and we are going to talk about, we're actually going to do, it's almost like instead of building better habits, this episode we're going to talk about anti habits or more like removing worse habits or something like that, the opposite of it. Because I was thinking about this, and it is particularly as I step into the new year and I look at resolutions. Well, one of the resolution that a lot of people have is usually going to be, around I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to get healthy. And usually those are related to things like I'm going to give something up or I'm going to stop something that is a bad habit. Another one that you may have is that I'm not going to spend as much time lost on social media or something like that. So it's like I'm going to give something away. And I want to talk about that because I think this is something that we don't, I think simplifying our life is something that we don't look at enough, particularly in the technology realm, because there's so many tools, there's so many things out there that we want to get involved in all this different stuff. We want to touch all these toys, we want to play with them, and there's a lot of times that we shouldn't, that these are things that are not productive for us. They do not help us become better developers or better people in general. And so I think that what I want to focus on this time is how do we build a a better negative habit. And it says, how do we break a habit? It's not just building a habit, but how do we break a habit? How do we, and one of them is, I think this is maybe the biggest value for you as you're looking at this particular challenge. We get into this is identifying what is a negative habit. I think the first thing to do is like we do with a lot of these, is sort of sit back a little bit and examine your week behind and maybe a little bit of your week ahead. And I think more so maybe the week behind is like, what were your plans that you had? Now, if last week happened to be one of the holiday weeks, you may have to go back a couple of weeks because things look different. Or maybe in the week ahead, just keep track of like, what are your plans? When you start the week and you're fresh and new and it's like, it's a whole week ahead of me and these are the things we're going to do. Where does it go sideways? Where does it go pear-shaped, as they say? And what are maybe some of the contributing factors to that? Now, I think some things that I'm going to suggest, and some things that actually some of these are very near and dear to my heart, some aren't, but one of the things that very well could be a problem for you, maybe if you get into like social media, you get lost in email, other conversations, or just like Slack or Messenger or whatever your chat version of chat app is. Sometimes you get lost in those. So looking at that is like, how can I do less of that? And it may be that there's something where you need some sort of a timer or something like that that says like, hey, I'm gonna have a timer that says, hey, you've spent too much time on that. There are also a lot of apps out there that will allow you to, at the end of the week or the end of the day or whenever you do it, look at where was your time spent. And it maybe it was in a browser or on these specific tools or an email, things like that, that I think are very insightful because you'll realize that, wow, I thought I spent 10 minutes in email, and you realize you actually spent 2 hours looking at email. I brought up in the pre-show, I mentioned the idea of like when these, now Apple sends through, and I think Android does too. You'll get at the end of the week, you can get your screen time report, and you'll get stuff where you think, well, I didn't spend that much time, and then your report comes back that you spent 20 hours in the last week in screen time. Like, oh, maybe I can cut that down. What else could I do in those 20 hours? 20 hours is a lot. So if it's 20, you cut that in half, you've got like an extra long day of stuff that you can get things done. So I think that's what you do is pick something, pick one thing. And this sort of is in the idea of, when we think of the world of Agile and Scrum, one of the things you do when you go from sprint to sprint to sprint is you pick one thing in the next sprint that you want to fix. And we're going to sort of look at it this way, is think of like a sort of 1 week sprint. What is something that is a habit that you want to break? And then the goal each day is going to be to identify when that habit kicks in, and to get yourself thinking that I don't want to do that. And it's basically usually going to be a replacement habit. And I think that's the key. And you find this with all of the addictions and habits and stuff like that, like smokers, when they want to quit, a lot of times they will go to, instead of smoking, they're going to go have a snack or a cup of coffee or something like that. It's the same thing. And I think this is where this is going to very much, I think, help you in building better habits and removing bad habits, is finding the replacement. What am I going to do instead of X, whatever my bad habit is? Now, for me, one of the things that I do way too often when I'm working from home is I will take my break, which is a good thing. I'll take, half an hour, hour in, I'll take a break of like 5 minutes. The bad thing is that too often I will go like hit my little snack closet. I'll have like a handful of chips or something like that. Is I'll just have something because it gives me something to do that is not sitting there in front of the computer. And while that's not horrible in itself, it's one of those things like I have better things I could do. Now, I could replace it with like, I'm going to go check email or something like that. But I think for myself, it's more of an idea of, and I've done this in the past, and this is what is reminding me to get back to it, is the idea of instead of walking to that snack closet for myself, I will just walk right by the snack closet and do maybe a lap or two around the house, go look outside, check out the backyard, the front yard, and things like that, which is also a very good habit from a vision point of view, because now you get from staring at this screen for so much time, and then you turn around and now you're staring at something that's in the distance, and it really does help your eyes. And it just helps me to get out and have, even on a rainy day, it's a different perspective. And so it is a positive in sort of that endorphin kind of thing of like, hey, I'm not staring at a screen. And we'll talk more about like fun habits in another episode, but I think it's the key here is looking at what you want to fix and thinking about what would be a positive replacement of that. Because it's usually not going to be as simple as I need to eliminate it. It's I want to replace it. And then it also benefits you because now you're going from a negative to a positive, and this is like now a much bigger swing. Those are my thoughts on it. And this has really been something I just pitched to Michael like right before this. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Hey, Rob. Yeah, so we're talking about anti-habits, how to break the habit or how to break a habit. And now that we're coming off the holiday season, one of the things that comes to my mind, especially, after watching football and, year-end stuff, just kind of finally chilling a little bit, is I've noticed a lot of commercials online, and I've used this app before, but Rocket Money is seriously pushing a lot of people right now because people need to save money. They spent a lot of money during the holidays, and they need to figure out how to cut back. Well, what's interesting about Rocket Money, and this falls right into this anti-habit, is how much are we spending on things that we don't think about? You go join a gym members or sign up for a gym membership, but never go to the gym, but you're still paying that membership. Or you sign up for multiple like trials over the holidays so you could watch your holiday shows and that, and you forget to cancel them. These things just kind of stack up over time, and next thing you know, you're spending $600, $800 a month on things that you aren't using. You're essentially throwing money away. Interestingly enough, I go through this every few years, and not necessarily with the uh, credit card and memberships, but I do this with my bills. So, like your credit card companies, your internet, your satellite TV, whatever you use that you use a lot. What is interestingly enough, and I had a sales guy actually tell me this, is if you get comfortable. If it's like, oh, I can afford that. Well, over time, policies and billing cycles and fees change within a service provider. So what you want to do is you want to call your vendor, you want to call your provider and say, hey, I want to talk to the fulfillment department, not the sales department. You want to talk to fulfillment. Fulfillment has access to every single deal throughout the entire company across the country or across the world, wherever they're located. And what's interestingly enough is the fulfillment people have the ability and typically have the go ahead to use anything in their arsenal to make the customer happy and seal the deal. So typically, where you go to your local like Spectrum or Verizon store, and they say, "Oh yeah, we can offer you, $25 a month for unlimited plan, etc." You called Verizon, talk to the fulfillment, they may say, hey, we can lock you in for a year at $15 a month. Even though you're an existing customer, we can still give you this deal. Now, the people at the stores can't, they're not authorized, but fulfillment typically can be. I did this 1 year and managed to cut $1,000 off my bills for 2 years, locking in certain payment deals. Now, with that being said, here we are 2.5+ years later, and now I'm noticing that prices have changed, things have gone down, and I'm actually paying more for some things that I shouldn't be. So, one of the anti habits is don't get complacent with your bills. Go follow up with your vendors and say, hey, am I really paying the right amount for what service I'm getting? Or am I locked into some contract or even out of contract? Sometimes when you're out of contract, the fees go up and you don't even realize it. So just kind of one little habit to just kind of go through and just reset your current bills. And if you do pay for a lot of subscriptions, look at Rocket Money. That might look at your accounts and say, hey, I can cut the fat. What am I not using? Cancel it. So that's one little anti habit I have. The other one that we kind of briefly talked about in the pre show is we're coming out of the holidays. So, no, it's New Year's resolutions. Everyone's like, well, I got to lose weight. Let's go get a gym membership. Well, instead of just doing that, and you mentioned this, Rob, people make those resolutions to quit smoking. The problem with a lot of these goals is that people don't find something to replace the bad habit with a good habit. And that can come with losing weight. So, one of my anti habit goals isn't so much to lose weight, but it is to stop eating junk food, like Rob said. Or in my case, stop eating Christmas cookies and that pint of ice cream that I finished off last night because Cherry Garcia was just so good. You need to look at things in moderation. So one of my anti habits is okay, what can I deduct, but what can I replace it with? So one of the things I'm thinking about doing this week is picking up some bags of fruit, keeping them in the house. So when I have that craving, instead of reaching for something sweet, I'll just reach for something healthy. Apples are very good. They're very sweet. Oranges as well. Typically, you can eat up to like 5 apples a day and you still get the benefit of the fruit because apples also have fiber and your body needs fiber. So I learned that trick from a nutritionist years ago. So that's one way you can actually cut a lot of fat, so to speak, reduce a bad habit, and just introduce something healthy in your life that still tastes good. And then lastly, the other thing with the anti habits, with the holidays, especially New Year's, we don't know about you, but in our household, we spent a little too much drinking champagne over New Year's and the holidays. So, one of the things to cut back on that isn't so much to stop drinking wine or stop drinking spirits, but to cut back. So, instead of that full glass of wine, maybe just pour 4 ounces. Have one or two of those. You now equal one glass of wine. You still have a couple glasses. You're still enjoying it, but you're doing it in moderation. You're not doing it in excess. So the anti-habit here is to just reduce a little bit of what you're doing in excess, and you should see a positive outcome come from that. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
Those are excellent. I think one of the things there on the latter part is we talk about momentum, and I think that's one of the things. If you can cut back, like I've known several people that have gone from like energy drinks and sodas to pure black straight coffee. And part of the way they do it, almost everybody I've talked to, one of the ways they do it is they go to coffee and initially they have a lot of sugar and cream in it, and they start cutting it back and cutting it back, and eventually get to the point where they're happy having it straight, take a lot of sugar out of their life and things like that. Another thing is I do think that it is useful to examine your habits like Michael talked about with it's like, like for me, this is it was actually very near and dear to my heart because mentioned I got married this year, brought somebody else in. I've had all of these habits and all these automated things that I did. And a lot of them are related to it's things like, it's my cell phone bill and insurance and some of those kinds of things that had been that I periodically look at them, but had just gotten in the habit, hadn't looked at them in a couple of years. And she comes in and says, hey, what about this? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, give it a shot. Let's see. It's probably, I was like, usually my answer is like, I think I talked to him 6 months or a year ago, but give it a shot. And it was usually like, yeah, I haven't talked to him in 3 or 4 years because time does that. And there's a lot of stuff that we got out of this, like cell phone in particular. We were able to move stuff around, add another phone, get a new phone, and still cut 50 or $100 a month off of our bill. I can't remember, but it's one of those things. And like insurance was insanely different. There's just a lot of things like that. And part of it too is because life moves on, you have different situations. But like I think we've talked about this before, but Michael said it is very useful to periodically, at least I would say once a year, every 2 years, go back through your long-term kinds of relationships, your cell phones, your insurances, those kinds of things, and even like memberships and stuff like that, and just see like what's a better deal, because it's amazing how often, which almost every time, I think like I was an AT&T member for years and years and years, and I think every time I called them, it was every 12 to 18 months, I would get a better deal. They would make some changes and I would get a better deal out of it. So definitely, look at the habits and just examine them as well, because it may be where you can refine the ones you have and just make those a little bit better. It takes us to the challenge for this one. The challenge is, I really set this up beforehand. The challenge is one, identify a negative habit. Identify something that you need to change. What is something in the week ahead? Pay attention each day. And is there something that is not healthy, that is not productive, or something along those lines, or just something you don't like to do, something that makes you feel icky, something that you just, are not a fan of, that you want to find a way to not have that habit, not have that a part of your life. And then the challenge is to choose a replacement habit, and then in the next week to start implementing that habit and see how that goes for you. And I'm really interested as we come to the end of the end of a year and starting a new one. I'm always going to throw out the send us an email at info@developreneur.com. But I really want to hear like, what are your resolutions? And maybe what's really fascinating to me when I have is, what is a resolution you made last year that has stuck? And I would love to see if the email is I didn't make any of them. That's cool too, because it's just really interesting. Is I think everybody talks about how they haven't kept their resolutions, and I'm always fascinated by the people that have, and I'm always very proud if I've had something that has stuck with me, to be like, hey, I'm bucking the trend, as it were. You can also reach out to us on X. You can reach out to us on Facebook, developer.com. We have contact us forms. Wherever you see podcasts out on YouTube, you can leave comments, you can leave feedback of any sort. We love to have that, particularly looking, at this kind of time where we're looking ahead to the year ourselves and making plans and things like that. It's always good to have feedback, because we do this for you and we want to help you be better developers. And however we can do that, we definitely want to look forward to that and get those information. And we have another season coming up in the next probably couple of months, and we'd love to have some ideas and thoughts on where you would like to see us go in the next couple of seasons. That being said, we're going to wrap this one up. So go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you, and a great year. We will talk to you next time. Bonus material.
So I just kind of want to reiterate some of the things we did mention in the podcast. So you mentioned like the screen time apps. So Apple has a great one built in. I think it's like Screen Time or FaceTime. I know FaceTime's the video, but Screen Time, turn it on. It's not necessarily always on by default, but turn it on, kind of track what you're doing. See, maybe, oh, I spent 40, 80 hours on Facebook all week. That means you literally were glued to your phone while you were doing your job or whatever it is you were doing for that week. Maybe you need to cut back on that. The other thing is, what's interesting about those type of apps is you can also restrict your viewing time of certain apps or usage time of certain apps during the day, so you can stay more focused. So that's one of the other things I'd like to throw out there. And if you're worried about how much focus or things you're doing as a bad habit in your house, a lot of routers, you can actually block certain websites during certain times and schedule. And that is a pain in the ass to go in and turn that off. So it really incentivizes you not to do your that really makes you break your habit because you like don't want to keep going in. All right, I gotta go turn no, 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 and you eventually either get frustrated with it and you turn it off, or you just live with it and it's like, okay, I just broke my habit because I put the walls up so strong that I can't bust through the brick anymore. It's like, you know, put some habits or put some barriers in place if you're trying to break a habit. And on the flip side, have a little fun with this. Pick up the phone, call some of your vendors and say, hey, what can you offer me to stay with you? I'm looking to go to someone else. What kind of deal can you give me? Have fun with it. Don't necessarily go into those mindsets of those types of calls with, this is going to be. No, just have fun with it. It's like, hey, I've been a customer for X number of years. How can you continue to make me happy? Or I'm going somewhere else. Do it in a positive way. Typically, you'll throw them off if you're positive, because if you come in kind of downbeat, mad, you're going to immediately turn them off and they're not going to want to help you. If you come in positive, you're either one, going to make their day because they've had all these negative calls, and two, they're going to be more incentivized to help you. So, just some tips, a little extra bonus there.
I do want to say, just in that, because I sent Michael a link, so hopefully there'll be a link in the show notes. It reminds me of, there's a book called The 40-Day Digital Fast, and one of the things about that is there's a lot of neat little ideas that are in there that are along the idea of making it tougher for you or less likely for you to do some of the things that you do. Like one of the things that I found, I struggled with, but really liked, was that you can put your iPhone, at least, and I think you can with an Android, you can put it into black and white mode. And it is amazing how putting your phone into black and white changes your desire to look at the phone. It's like it really helps you, like with a smartphone, it really helps you not want to spend time sitting in apps and reading news and stuff like that. Now, the warning is if you're like me and you do Wordle every day, you cannot tell the difference between the Wordle colors. And so it makes it very, very difficult to do that. So it literally, I think, impossible to do Wordle properly. Um, so I did have to, like, for a while, I had my phone in black and white and I had a tablet that was specifically just for my daily Wordle. And then I eventually moved my phone back. But it's one of those things. It's like there are a lot of helpful things like that that just make it so the habit that you do is either a pain or not as enjoyable, and it really can help you reduce that habit. And for me, one of the things is when I switched it to black and white, when I was thinking I don't want to look at this as much, it reminded me that I want to do that other habit. I want to do sometimes it's not so much, it's that habit is so automatic. It's helping us realize the automation in ourselves and breaking that so that we can replace it with a new habit. So go ahead.
Interesting. And that made me think of something else. So, if you are looking to try and like get away from eating certain foods, so this was a trick I picked up years ago, and put something on the food that you don't like. So add like chili powder or hot sauce or something to make it a little less enjoyable. And then when you look at that, it's like, oh no, I don't like the taste of that. Your mind will remember that and you'll be less likely to go grab that. Sorry. You just kind of made me think of that.
Okay, so I'll follow that up with bonus is that, but watch out. So for example, one of the things is we're going through sort of our own little dietary thing, and Natalie got some V8 that looks like green paint. It looks like, and not a pretty green. It is really tasty. I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it a try just because I need the vitamins and stuff. And I tried it. I was like, oh wow, this is really good. This is like a little treat. So be careful. You may, especially like me, I have found some of my best my favorite foods are throwing a couple of things that are a little different into it. And so I'm like, wow, that's a great combination. It's like, that's probably how like Reese's got started. So it's like, nobody's going to like chocolate and peanut butter. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. So just beware on that. What you do. If you do like it, then forget it and then go find something that you definitely do not like. That being said, start a habit of watching us every time and even like giving us feedback. That'd be awesome. Not just once, but like a ritual of sending us emails and just what you like and don't like or how you're doing on the challenges of the time. That being said, we're going to let you get back to it. Thank you, as always, for watching. We look forward to reaching out to you and meeting with you virtually again the rest of the year as we continue into this new season, this new year of developing our stuff. This is like I think it's our 8th year now of as a podcast, and our second year in a video podcast kind of thing. So we are just chugging right along, and we have outdone dozens and dozens and dozens of, or actually probably millions of pod faded podcasts that are out there that made it to, like, 10 episodes or something like that. So thank you so much for being there. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next time.